So much fear, so much chaos. You've been asking who's gonna save us. Turn off the TV and turn off your phone. Yeah, we're safe if we stay at home. We can sing if we want to. We can still dance the whole night through. We can lock eyes from across the room. We don't need to touch, I can feel you. 6 feet apart won't stop us. Don't need to hold you in my arms. I still know you in the dark. Just 'cause I can't kiss you underneath the moonlight doesn't mean you have to feel alone tonight. Let's get closer from 6 feet apart.
I can't remember the last time I slowed down long enough to memorize the lines on your face and the way your laugh lights up our place. So tell me something that you haven't told me yet, and I'll put on that dress from the night we met. 'Cause there's nowhere else I'd rather be than right here, right now, just you and me.
6 feet apart won't stop us. Don't need to hold you in my arms. I still know you in the dark. Just 'cause I can't kiss you underneath the moonlight doesn't mean you have to feel alone tonight. Let's get closer from 6 feet apart.
We can light up the dark.
We can light up the dark
if we don't let this change us.
Ooh, let love undo all that fear and hate does.
6 feet apart won't stop us. Don't need to hold you in my arms. I still know you in the dark. Just 'cause I can't kiss you underneath the moonlight
doesn't mean we have to feel alone tonight. You're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone. 6 feet apart won't stop us. Don't need to hold you in my arms. I still know you in the dark. Just 'cause I can't kiss you underneath the moonlight doesn't mean we have to feel alone tonight.
Let's get closer.
Let's get closer from 6 feet apart.
From a distance, we will stop this thing. It's already really grim. From a distance, we'll make the best of things while social distancing. From a distance, there is harmony, and it echoes over Zoom. It's the voice of hope.
It's the voice of peace
From every living room. Now you're watching us. Now you're watching us. Now you're watching us from a distance.
From a distance, we see you on the beach, and we know you should go home. From a distance, we all share the grief in Wuhan terror.
let Tony Fauci lead. Now you're watching us, now you're watching us, now you're watching us from a distance. From a distance, that's where we've got to stay if we want to make it through. From a distance, wave, smile, or namaste is the safest thing to do. From a distance, we can change this world, make it better than it's been. Be the voice of hope, be the voice of peace. Join as one, let's begin. Be the voice of hope, be the of peace. Join as one and let's begin. Keep on watching us, keep on watching us, keep on watching us from a distance. Keep on washing up, keep on washing. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. Keep on rising up from a distance.
All right. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the wind at our backs. May it always blow steady wherever you roam. May it turn when you're ready to carry you home. May it keep you ahead of the rain. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the heavens above. Some say it's a glimpse of God's great design. Some say it's the science of all things combined. May we look up and always feel wonder. Here is to us, and all that we see is to our hearts, and the air that we breathe is to around good company. Is to the drink that we share. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the time that we have. For these moments pass lightly, won't come again. May our lives all burn brightly right up to the end. May we live them with joyous abandon. Raise up your glasses. Let us drink to the end of the day. Let us drink to the work the working is through. Let us drink one to me, let us drink one to you. Let us drink one to those who aren't with us. Here is to us, and all that we see is to our hearts, and the air that we breathe is to around in good company. Here's to the future, here's to the past. Let us drink one now, so let us drink one down fast. Let us drink one as if this night is our last. Here's to the drink that we share. Oh, here's to the drink that we share.
Welcome to NERFA's third panel on whatever we can do to make life a little bit easier for the performers and the presenters out there. Tonight we're doing Building and Fostering an Online Audience with our special guests, Adam Ezra, Heather May and Chris Matthews, and Eva's Revolution. We'll start by introducing our dear friends, Chris and Heather May. Hey guys, good to have you. Chris and Heather took this opportunity, or problemtunity, I think is the word that I've heard used. When everything happened with COVID, they had a wonderful Pride tour planned, and they weren't going to let a pandemic get in their way, and started the singing out tour that was able to do a tremendous amount of good in raising money for the, and I've been practicing this, Chris, but I'm going to murder it. LGBT community doing a spectacular job and making sure that Pride Month wasn't going to be lost just because of a pandemic. We're really glad to have them. Along with those folks, we've got Emma's Revolution. I have been listening to Pat Humphrey's music since before I could, well, I won't give you an actual age because you'll probably get mad at me, but I am someone that did not necessarily grow up in a church, but I grew up in UU coffee houses, which means her music was just suffusing through everything, and getting to meet and get to know her and Sandy over the last couple of years. What they've done and what they stand for is amazing, and getting them here specifically to talk about how they turned this particular event into a way to grow and really build closer relationships with their audience and fan base. I couldn't be happier to have you guys. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. We hope we're here. Can you hear us?
Oh, you sound great. You sound great.
Hooray.
And lastly, but in no case leastly, our dear friend Adam Ezra, who has done the amazing job of his 301st consecutive daily show, I believe was tonight.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Can you hear me okay, Ethan?
You sound great, buddy. In about 300 days ago, Adam started a live stream when all of us were just trying to figure out what to do, and he played for about an hour, and he told the 500 rough odd people that showed up, you know, if I come back tomorrow, if you guys come back tomorrow, I'll come back tomorrow. And they did, and he has continued doing that for over 300 days. And it has been an inspiring thing to watch, and we're really happy to have you here as part of the conversation.
Honored
so
to be here.
Thanks, guys. I couldn't be happier, and thanks for being part of this. We're going to be having a conversation tonight that is pretty open-ended, but it's going to be basically sharing the stories that you guys have gone through in the last year, and what you found to really be the silver lining of all of this stuff that's currently going on, and you know what we can do to make the most of it. So I again want to just sort of thank you before we jump straight into it. I'm super jazzed because I know all of you and I love all of you, and having you here is kind of like not being alone. So I appreciate it. And to the 60 plus people that are watching, by all means, please drop questions throughout the conversation. If it's particularly particularly relevant, we might get to it in the moment, but otherwise we'll be saving a lot of them towards the end. And thank you guys for being here. So I want to start just with Chris and Heather and sort of talk through your process when this started of figuring out what you were going to do and how you were going to particularly serve your audience and your community.
Yeah, so the first thing that we'll say is that we had a tour that was completely booked. It was 38 shows in 42 days. And it was all in the name of pride. As a queer woman, pride is incredibly important to me, and to the idea that, we might not have it. I just knew that there were so many LGBTQ kids who were going to be at home in places where they weren't accepted. So it was like April. Everything shut down on March 15th, and then April happened, and I talked to my booking agent, and I said, everything's going to get canceled. We need to make this virtual. And that was one of the first things that we did.
Yeah, we were very lucky too that he didn't really blink at the suggestion that we would be doing a virtual Pride tour. He pretty much said, "Great, let's do it," and just jumped right in. So that was incredible having the support like that to know the importance of it and to understand the importance of it. So it made it easy to have his fire behind us.
And because I know there's a lot of musicians who are watching and venues as well, I also want to say this was in the beginning when people were like, what's a virtual show? Yeah. How does a venue? Do you guys remember that time when like venues were like, who? What is it? Why would you want us to host you? Like they didn't understand it. And in April, we came up with this like press packet and just started throwing it up on the wall. We offered it to the venues that were hosting us and like physical in-person shows. Yeah. And then we gave it to those venues again. And a lot of them were like, we don't understand. We're shutting down completely. And there was some really oddballs out there that were like, yeah, this sounds weird. We're in. And I feel like that's so old now.
Yeah. Now everybody's like,
yeah.
I suspect that this is probably going to be a running theme throughout the conversation that we all have, because since we're essentially talking about community and audience building, I love that you did manage the manager that basically empowered you in the beginning of this. Not that you couldn't do it on your own, but that you had someone be like, hell yeah, let's make this happen. And I think in almost all of the success stories that I've heard, there is always that aspect of it takes a village. You can't do it on your own. So glad to hear that. That being said, let's move over to our buddies Emma's Revolution and get the right banner so that people don't get confused and don't think all of a sudden they changed their name. And for you guys, when the pandemic started, you've been a touring duo for many years. But what went through your process of how are you going to tackle this as artists?
I think it's colloquially called panic, and like no jobs, no work. And when you say,
we were getting call after call saying we're shut down. So all of our gigs disappeared, as I think was probably the case with you all. And Sandy, I have to say, said, okay, we're going to figure out how to do this.
And I wanted to piggyback on that. It takes a village to say that you really do want to reach out if you have questions about how some of this stuff works, because all of us do. And we couldn't have gotten started way back in the spring if I hadn't had a friend of ours who heard a concert by Winborn, and folks might know Winborn. They're a lovely and talented a cappella group. And our friend said, Winborn just did a concert. Why don't you just call them up and maybe they'll help you out. And I didn't know them personally. And I just texted Jeremy and he was like, yep, I can call you tomorrow. Let's go through it. So he got us started on Ecamm Live, because we used to do everything on Facebook, and so just and all of these terms that we're all dealing with, like StreamYard, and we're dealing with, we just came in early and our mic didn't work through Firefox, and here we are through Chrome, and who knew that we had to know all this stuff? But it really does take a village. I wanted to totally echo that, for really reaching out and knowing that people want to help you. It's a time that we really all do want to support each other. Even if we never knew it before, we need each other, and community is so important.
it's a constant process, learning process, though. We're always learning from other people and sharing what we know and upgrading, you know, where we can, and just figuring out, you know, better ways to do this. And, you know, for us, we've been touring together for 19 years. And it was a pretty big shift. We hadn't even done Facebook Live. We hadn't really streamed concerts or anything. So we were starting at below zero, maybe.
Yeah, we were.
Negative
That's
zero.
why we thought it was so funny to show that video that was from April 7th. I was like, my God, that's like ancient history. Look at us, like had so much less hair, but you know, tech.
We looked
like,
younger,
low tech mode.
But still so relevant. It might be old, but still, like the joy of starting the shows with things like that is I get to watch all of you backstage react to it, and watching Heather and Chris, they were dying, and it was more like. I've been a bundle of nerves as I've been getting ready for this, just getting all the technical stuff ready. And I think I was still a bundle of nerves until I started laughing watching them laugh. So thank you for the video. Otherwise,
good. It was meant to make people laugh, so I'm glad it's still working.
Good.
And it does. And I think that brings us to our last guest that's going to be speaking tonight, Adam, who. Again, 301 consecutive daily shows, man. That's a thing.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing. It was not super well planned or orchestrated, but it kind of unfolded. And I just want to say, Chris and Heather, it's really nice. I met you before, but it's nice to be here with you, and Sandy and Pat. It's good to see you guys again. And Pat, it's always an honor to be anywhere close to the same bill as you. You've been doing such inspiring community work for so many years. Your touch has touched a lot of others. So it's just needed to say that to anyone that was watching. But I was, you know, I was really this process through COVID, and I should just say, for those watching this, hoping to glean some kind of strategy or knowledge, I think Sandy was just speaking to this. I don't know what I'm doing. And none of us, I mean, we're, and it's beyond, like, so not only are we in uncharted waters as a country and as a culture, as a world, facing tragedy together, but, you know, I'm an idiot when it comes to computer stuff. I'm an idiot when, you know, and so my tour got canceled on March 13th, and or I canceled my first show. I was really excited. I was supposed to fly down to Clearwater, Florida, to open up for 2,000 people for Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. I was going to go on tour with those guys, legends in the rock and roll world. I was so excited, and it was, I was the one that can't. The concert actually still ended up happening. I called up Johnny and I said, I just don't know if I feel right going down there. It's not because I'm worried about my own health, but because it doesn't feel right anymore to be doing it. And
oh my gosh, I remember those days.
Yeah, and I was home. We maybe live streamed once or twice, and we had like 12 people watching us from our Facebook page, you know. But I was scared, and I felt alone, and upset, and so for me, the strategy was just to be as real as possible on camera when I was there. I mean, 300 nobody wants to see this face 301 nights in a row.
I think your watch counter begs to differ, buddy. I watched those videos.
So Ethan, here's the thing, and if there's any point that I could make, and it goes back to the takes a village phrase, but really, the Gathering series, which is what we call our nightly live stream, has only it's only tangentially about me. and my music. This is the mission has become to create a safe space for an hour every single night, consistent, no matter where you are in the world, in the country, no matter where you are in your heart and your head. There is just going to be, there's going to be a community of people online. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be saying really stupid stuff on camera and making it up as I go along. And you can be a part of this if you feel like being less alone. And it's made me feel less alone this entire time.
And we'll get into sort of the group discussion part of this, but I do want to sort of say, Adam in particular, you know, I've been a fan and friend of yours for a bit now, which has been a very sort of special experience to watch what you've gone through, particularly because you had COVID in the middle of this.
Oh,
and you kept going and you shared that experience. And that was when a lot of people were terrified, because it was a thing that people knew was out there, but it was before. I think at this point, almost everyone knows someone, at least someone that has had COVID or has gone through loss. The stats as of this week are even scarier than they've been before, where a week ago, it was 1 in every 1,000 Americans have died of COVID. And this week it's 1 in every 900. So like, that's terrifying. And that's a huge number, but you very early on in this put a very human face on that experience. And I just, you know, I wanted to call that out, because you might not know what you're doing, but you still did a good job.
Thank you. Thanks. You know, for those of us that are independent grassroots musicians, which is, I'm assuming, every single person that's watching this thing, right? Or independent music fans, community and event organizers. We all know one basic truth, which is nothing goes as it's supposed to. And so, right, if you play enough shows, if you do enough tours, if you put yourself out there enough, then for every time you've done that, something has gone not right, right? And to me, the key is, how do you turn what's not right into a once in a lifetime moment that you can share with somebody, right? We were in the Iron Horse Music Hall in Western Massachusetts, and all the power went out halfway through the show. And it was my favorite show we've ever played there, because everybody put their phone lights on and we walked out and we sat on the stairs, and it was the coolest show ever. And I remember getting sick. I remember losing my sense of smell and my sense of taste. And I remember feeling, again, scared. This was a month into doing these live streams. And at that point, right, everybody was isolated. Everyone was scared. We had a lot of people watching every night. And it was, I thought, an opportunity to just, whatever was going to happen, be real about it on camera. Let's have some people that are on camera communicating with the public be real about something. And if that was me being sick, and just talking about what that felt like to have COVID, and what it felt like physically, and what it felt like to be scared, that takes a little bit of the power out of the fear. And so it was an honor for me to get to spend a little bit of time on camera, you know, get out of bed for some nights. It was just, I got out of bed for 20 minutes and tried to play a song or two and yapped a little bit and went back to bed again. That was it. And that was okay. Yeah.
So, you know, that was really, from an outsider's perspective, that was a heck of an experience to be able to witness and to learn from. Pat and Sandy, you guys started, and, you know, as you said and Adam said, we all kind of fumbled towards what the new normal is, but you guys did so in a very inclusive way among your fan base and among, you know, one of sort of the key ideas that the programming committee has been talking about, and part of the reason that we reached out to all of you in particular, is you took this opportunity, or opportunity, whatever we're going to call it, and you created a depth in the relationship with your audience that was really unique. Like, at least that from an outsider's perspective, there was that a closeness that was really quite touching to see. And I don't know if you guys want to sort of speak to that in those early sort of months.
Yeah, I would love to say that was one of the building the community, and as Adam also said, holding a space for people to gather, and a space where they knew that they could come for an hour and be with other people who cared about music, who cared about justice, who cared about community. And for us, all the way from the beginning, we did a number of things that we're still doing. I think we're in like week 40 of our weekly Learn an Emma's Revolution song workshop, which we do on Zoom, and we pour it out to Facebook, but we always have a hang afterwards on Zoom, and people get to know each other. You know, and it's been lovely. And we do songwriting, and we open the room early so they can come and hang out just like you would have when you would come to some kind of space, you know, for a workshop or something. And that's been important to us. And when we do our concerts, we always have a post-concert visit, you know, whatever we call it. But mostly because some people are still alone. And some people, even if they aren't alone, they're not necessarily with people who love what they love or who care about what they care about. And we felt it's important to really meet them. And I can't tell you, you know, just like you said, Ethan, when we started out, that it feels like we're together. It really does. It's astounding that this technology does what it does. We have had so many intense moments with people, and fun and loving and, you know, playful and everything, the whole range of real life, through having the very regularity of the things we've been doing, which I think is also really different from when we were touring. The regularity of touring is that there is no regularity, and you keep going, and yeah, you do a concert and you keep going. But in this life, we do 2 songwriting workshops a week, a workshop on Sundays every week, just like never had any kind of regularity like that. And that's been strangely wonderful. I think I needed a break after 19 years of touring.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, you know, what is it that we can do? Mm-hmm. You know, what would even possibly be translatable to something online? So we thought, well, okay, we've taught songwriting a lot. Let's try that. And then we thought, people ask us a lot, you know, oh, how do you, you know, what are the chords to this? Or how do you play that chord? Or, you know, what are you doing right there? And what's that little riff thing? So we thought, okay, we can teach people our songs and see where that goes. I mean, we really just did put things out. And, you know, the feedback that we got was that people love to have some opportunity to touch base and to learn these things. And, you know, San said there's this really important emotional component of it. You know, we have people with disabilities who are living by themselves, who are sometimes really terrified through this time, you know, as things shut down more, as you know, the death toll goes up, you know, just this. We have folks that have told us over and over and over again, you know, I really just sort of, I wait until Thursday. If I can make it till Thursday, if I can make it till, you know, Wednesday, then I know I'm going to be okay this week. Like, this became so much more important than we ever imagined.
And I think you know, what I've heard from a number of performers that I've spoken with is the initial thought that I think a lot of people had is, how do I replicate what I used to do in this new space? And what that's evolved to for a lot of people isn't how do I replicate, but how do I make this new thing that I'm doing special? Mm-hmm. And that, you know, again, you're all here because I've watched what you've done, and I appreciate. And Adam just had something big fly behind him. That was interesting. Sorry. And in particular, what, you know, in some of the conversations I've had, the notion of being a touring musician, like you two have been for decades at this point, 200 shows a year, I think, Adam, is your average on the road. Chris and Heather, you guys have done so much both apart and together, changing that rhythm from a different group of people every night to the same people who are coming every night, and you have in fact become part of their coping mechanism. There is an amazing opportunity is the wrong word, because it makes it sound transactional, but there's an amazing responsibility that comes with it. And what I have seen out of each and every one of you is a stepping up into that, which, you know, I don't want to leave out my dear friends Chris and Heather, because talk about people that rose to the challenge. You know, you guys were told you're not doing it, and you're like, yeah, we are, and we're going to do it bigger than we would have done it anyway, and you did. And through the process, kind of like Adam and Sandy and Pat, you shared, and pardon me, I'm calling you guys out a little bit. Chris, I love you because you're an introvert. Heather, I love you because you are the opposite of what the word introvert is in most situations.
Yes.
And none of us are pure either way, but my God, you guys go far on either side of the spectrum. But you shared so much of yourselves in a very, very real way during this. And totally. There is the performer share. There is the person you are when you are on stage sharing. And then there is the person you are sharing. And again, from the outsider's perspective, the way I saw both of you approach this was again, Heather, your barriers are always a little iffy, but a dropping of barriers in a really, really weird way. You know, I'm saying it out of love, right?
I think that not having barriers for me is what makes my connection with my fans as strong as it is. I have bipolar disorder too, and anxiety, and I'm a mental health musician. If I'm not authentic and if I have barriers around that, what good am I dismantling the stigma around mental health?
Most definitely.
And then for the two of us, when this whole thing went down, you know, like we realized very quickly on that we're not going to be able to. I remember driving from Chicago to DC overnight because we were so afraid of my partner, my married partner, works on Capitol Hill. And I was terrified, just absolutely terrified of what was happening. We decided to drive home overnight, ending a tour. And on that drive, it was like every gig got canceled. And I looked at Chris and I was like, we're buying a camera. We're buying a mic. We're moving into this house because we were moving that weekend. Yeah. And we are setting up our dining room as a venue. This is, and I remember people around me being like, oh, it's only going to be a couple weeks.
It's not going to last. It's not going to last. It's just like, it's going to be at least a year, probably two.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we started that series, which is what you're referencing, Ethan, Apart Together. And the thing that what we noticed that what made people keep coming back was the sharing of our life.
Yeah. And just the community building in general. It's just like Adam was saying, you know, people were so scared. And so when you're saying to people amidst this very scary thing that is happening, the thing that will keep you safe is staying isolated, is very hard for people to want to be isolated when something so scary is happening. And so the urgency of kind of creating that community and nurturing and fostering that community was apparent straight out of the gate. And I think that's the thing that was not, I won't say surprising, but that was the thing that, you know, for us, we're songwriters. You know, you go to a show of ours, people don't usually come back to your same show week after week after week. Your manager's like, again. Don't go back for 3 months, maybe 6. And then in the pandemic, you know, people are there week after week after week because the community is what they are needing. That's the thing that's sustaining them, and so that's the thing that keeps bringing them back. That feeling of not being so alone and not being so isolated. So it was just as so many others have said, it has been an absolute honor to help kind of hold space and gently guide people through this very scary time in whatever small way we can.
Yeah.
And you truly have done an amazingly admirable job from the viewpoint of a friend watching it. And, you know, I'll put Adam on blast a little bit because You said most people don't come to your show, week after week, day after day. One of the joys in opening for Adam and also going to Adam shows occasionally, because I like to, is I remember we opened for you at Daryl's house a couple of years ago. And that's New York, I think, somewhere in New York or Connecticut, somewhere over there. And we met a bunch of your fans for the first time, all really wonderful people. And you happened to be playing Boston, my hometown, 2 days later. And we went to, it was a cruise night. I went to a cruise night and ran into at least 30 people that were at the show the night before, because your fans are crazy and they love you. And you've made, I think in some ways you took that already existing relationship and transitioned it into what now we're all talking about, sort of in this space. I'm sorry, I should warn everyone, my way of doing anything like this is to gush about how much I love you all individually, pretty much for the entirety of the hour, while giving you as much time to talk as possible. But all that being said, to get into, very specific sides of, strategy is not the right word, but the mechanisms by which you guys accomplished what you did, going back to Adam, you, as you said, you're not a techie. You are doing these shows every day. I've been to many of them, and you average anywhere from 350 to 700 people a night. And you do it mostly on the same stupid little microphone that I've got in front of me right now. And the technology doesn't get in the way for you. You didn't let it. You didn't walk down that route. You are who you are. From that kind of mechanical, like, I know you say it wasn't planned, but at some point you had to have said, this is what I'm doing. What was that point, and what were the definitive decisions that came from it?
Yeah, I can answer that. But I will say, and I'm just because I am so proud. And for those of you all watching out there, right, this world seems to be shaped by tastemakers who put out a tweet and get 1 million retweets, right? This panel is called Building and Fostering an Online Community. Obviously, we are, Ethan is not interviewing 3 cultural icons here, right? But but there is a common thread in this world that we're a part of, where I think people that are hyper honest and real, and that is a big part of their mission, right? Can use their art to bring communities closer, and it seems that seems to be a common theme with all of these, with all of the questions that you're asking, Ethan, and the answers that all of us seem to be giving. I think that it was about a week into doing live streams every night that I went, and we had just, and I want to, just because I'm so proud, I want to correct your stats, Ethan, because when you go online, and for artists that are online doing this, right, data is everything. I mean, it's one thing to just, I love people and I love creating space or whatever, but we're also artists and we also live by this stuff. And if you're going to be an artist, know your data, know who your audience is, know how many people are watching you, know how many people are sharing you. Over the course of a night at any given point, if you stop by one of our gatherings, there's 200 or 300 people online at any given point. But at the end of every gathering, we've had over 2,000 visitors. And 3 days later, that number is usually over 20,000. And those are, I study that data when I'm offline. And because you got to know who you're reaching and how you're talking to them and how you're connecting with them. It was a week into the gathering series that I just said, you know what, I think I'm going to just keep doing this. To my manager, I had just hired a digital marketing person, just to, like, I don't know anything about this world. Teach me how this world works, right? And I remember going to my friend Dee Dee and saying, "Look, I think I want to do this every night." She's like, how about twice a week, right? And for me, it was just gonna, for me, it just had to be. This is gonna not be about a concert anymore. It's gonna be just about real time and grounding time. And I don't know how long it's gonna last. And I don't know if I would have made the same decision if I knew that 300 days later we would be worse off than we are now, right? Like, I mean, when this was starting in March, right? We all lived through it, right? We thought, oh, well, this is real bad, but maybe by the summertime things will get better, right? And but I think to me that the consistency was really important, and more important than the music. There are lots of things that we do as artists that are more important than the music. I mean, the music is the conduit, it's the glue, it's the common theme, it's the thing that brings everybody in. But so much of what we do as artists, if we are the kind of artists that you are bringing together on this panel, is about a lot more than the music. It's about creating a safe space for people to celebrate the fact that we are more the same than different, no matter where we're coming from, right? And
and that's really been a through line for all the time that I've known you. And one of the things that I know I've said to this before, I've said this to you before in other interview shows that we've done. You have a wonderful way with your fan base of really inviting people of all creeds, kinds, wherever they come from, whatever their belief system is. They come together, and the stuff that usually gets in the way right now, especially in the social media world of oh, you're conservative, you're liberal, you're this, you're that, you're from here, you're from there. At least in the context of your shows and in your spaces, it doesn't. You manage to make that a non-issue for 2 hours. So that's impressive.
That is a really brutal. It's so easy for us in the folk world to spend our time preaching the converted. It is so easy for us. But we have huge scars. We have huge open wounds in this society. And I, it's just my personal, I fight with I get in fights about this, like good fights. People challenge me. I surround myself with people who challenge me, and they challenge me, and they say, Adam, why don't you make more of a stand? Everybody we all have a lot of stands we can make. And I know that all of us believe in an inclusive community, the concept of that. And there are ways to foster that, even when you are playing to people who have very, very different views than you. And I just read Nelson Mandela's book, and I think what they did with Truth and Reconciliation with the apartheid government is the lesson. That is we're going to have to figure out a way to find truth and reconciliation. And so anyways,
and along those lines, just to include our dear friends Sandy and Pat, a lot of your mission statement really in your careers has been one of inclusivity and one of essentially upfront honesty about who you are and where you're coming from. How has that sort of, again, we're circling around the same general subject, but the notion of this sort of radical honesty, how has that factored into this particular experience and into the relationships with the audience?
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that, Adam, about your experience in doing music and your relationship with your audience, because I grew up, I grew up with people like Pete Seeger as an example that I look to. so I really had this notion that that there was a choir and that I was speaking to it. And then I learned over time that there really wasn't the consensus that I thought was there, and there wasn't the level of tolerance and understanding and support and, you know, sense of inclusion and sense of justice that I thought was there. And I just started asking these questions really kind of through my music, and, you know, wondering, well, so is it okay to be, you know, part of the LGBT community and do what I do? Is it okay to talk about issues of race in the context of what I do? Is it, you know, and I got different answers in different places, but I kept asking those questions with the songs, and I kept presenting people's experience just to see, you know, just to give people a window into some other things that they might not experience, and they might be inadvertently making the world harder for folks like that, and that they might be able to just tweak some ways that they're doing things to truly create a more compassionate, just world. And it's been, you know, we've gotten mixed results. You know, I have to say, in many places where I thoroughly expected to find support and to find people like enthusiastic support, I didn't find it. And it was.
You're not talking about audience. You're talking about in the folk community.
Yeah, but you know, we built an audience around people that were like, yeah, this is what I'm not hearing. This is what I'm not seeing. You know, people just excited about wow, finally somebody's saying my name. Finally somebody's talking about my experience. And we know we built an audience around that. But you know, I was disappointed sometimes by communities that we would, you know, different audiences that we would have access to, and they'd be like, no, this is like too challenging for us. And the thing that we found in this, you know, in this new environment online is that people have been really hungry. They've been hungry for music, but they're also really hungry to be seen and to be heard and to find a community of people that are willing to take some risks along with them and on their behalf, and you know, people that are willing to have the conversation and to work together, and that has been really interesting to see how many people have jumped on in much larger numbers than we had access to when we just did these things live.
Yeah, and just along those lines, this year, as it, you know, in the greater creative community, whether it be not just the music community, but what we've seen in television, what we've seen in movies, not that we didn't know it before, but the notion of representation mattering has been at the forefront. You know, you've got, I think that the top 2 Emmy nominated TV shows this year were Watchmen, which was a Black-led TV show, and I'm going to blank on the other one, another HBO show,
Insecure,
Lovecraft Country, another very, you know, written by and starring people of color, which is still to this day a rarity, especially as it comes to sort of primetime stuff, and that representation, to see, you know, that start happening not just more in our community, and this is my really, really awkward transition to talk to my dear friends, Chris and Heather.
How did we know, Ethan?
How did we know? How did we know?
I'm working on transitions. I'm not good at it yet, but I'm trying.
It's all right, Ethan.
But, you know, what I adore so much about the two of you in particular, not from the representation side, but from the fact that you two represent, musically speaking, very, very disparate things. Chris is, to my ear, you are an old-time troubadour that Pete Seeger would have fallen in love with for her radical honesty and straightforwardness.
And he would have had his heart broken by this butch lesbian.
Oh no, I already broke his heart.
And Heather, you are a power singer that would have booted Whitney Houston off a stage. It's just the way you roll. And to watch the way the two of you have created a synergy in music that is not disparate, but not the first thing you'd think of as going together is really amazing. Like, I hate to say it, but like, it's you guys in Gangster Grass in my, like, I don't quite understand, but man, does it work?
It's magic.
I think the thing that blends Chris and I is we are cause-based musicians. So it doesn't matter how, how we sound. It's a matter of the fact that, I mean, our sound ends up blending, which is really great. But
I make her sing so mellow and calm. It's really
and I really get her to sing, you know.
I have to really up my game when I'm singing with her.
But we one of the things
it's
that
the message,
yeah, it's the message of it. And the thing that I'll just to kind of blend it towards what we're talking about here, which is the fostering audiences. Chris and I, the thing that we notice with our fan base, and that I really encourage people who are, I mean, if you're just now starting to like get your, which I have a marketing business. I work with clients. Some of them are just now getting into live stream because they got so intimidated by it. That if you're just now beginning, share your life. You are not just a musician. You're not just a musician. You are a human first. Everybody has a story. And like right now, everybody is stuck at home trying their hardest to not go to the grocery store. If they're trying hard not to get anybody sick, they're trying really hard to stay strong. And what we have found is that 3 things: to be relatable, to help them relax, and to help them stay informed. We're very careful about the things that we say to our live stream audience because we want to take care of them. We want to be relatable. So that means sometimes we have segments where we talk about like what we've cooked that week and to be relaxing, you know, we really care about our set list.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been it's an interesting dance, really, kind of like keeping that human aspect of it, so that people can feel connected and not so overwhelmed with the scariness. But then also because of everything else that has happened amidst this pandemic, all of the other huge things that are happening in this world, to still, you know, be true to who we are as artists as well. It's definitely been a very interestingly performed dance, kind of juggling those things simultaneously. But you know, authenticity is what has sustained us this whole time, and the pandemic hasn't made that any less true. So.
And we've also canceled shows. Like I just really want to just say I honor Adam and his experience. That is
that's amazing.
Believable.
Man.
Whoa. Last night, we live in DC. Yeah. Last night's events happening at the Capitol, we canceled it.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're an artist, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to cancel, and you need to be able to sustain yourself as well through this, because we're not going to be touring for a long time, amazing humans. And so let's get to the point where like you are still able to take care of yourself and perform live, because you have to be able to be authentic and healthy. You know what I mean?
In all capacities.
In all capacities. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. I agree with that. This was my last gathering tonight. Forget it. I'm done.
gonna all just break into song right now, Adam. We're just gonna start like having a full concert.
You guys.
He's
You're
like,
very
that's the
influential.
permission I needed. I'm out. And with that, I'm out.
Wait. You're saying I can take a night off?
So it is so meaningful to hear about all of your personal experiences and sharing, like Heather, to your point, what works for some people doesn't work for others. And in fact, it is sharing of yourself that makes what you're doing compelling in the first place, and also keeps it honest. So I think that is because there are people watching, and I have no doubt that they're watching and not getting that even though we're doing it through anecdote, you are teaching. You are all educating right now. Yeah. And all three of you, five of you, but all three of you from a presentation standpoint have walked very, very different roads, but you've done it to success. You've found a way to be authentic to who you are in doing that. And that sort of leads into perhaps a more nuts and boltsy question. And this is going to be the one that, by all means, if you guys are like, I don't want to talk about it, that's fine. Heather and Chris, you guys started a Facebook community, and your Facebook community is beautiful. It is caring. You have people reaching out to each other and making sure that each other, not just you two are clearly mother hens to some degree of that community, but they are interacting on their own. You actually created a village that's taking care of itself.
Yeah.
And you created a mechanism for doing that. Adam, you've done something relatively similar with your gathering. I just know that there are a lot of asterisks in the name of the Facebook group. I can't remember exactly the name, but
the effing fan page.
Yes, the effing fan page, the Adam Ezra effing fan page. And again, you've created this situation where I'm watching your fans reach out to each other and help each other. And you were on my podcast. You were our first guest on the podcast, Heather and Chris. You were our last guest, first season podcast. You were on our first guest, and you brought with you a group of people that have not missed a single one of our shows because they love you so much. They came to the first one, and they're like, "Well, Adam said it's good, so I'm staying." So there's an amazing power in that community that you created, which again brings us to Pat and Sandy and the experience that you two have had in this community. And I invite you to sort of share specifically the act of fostering the community, not just in their appreciation of you, but in their appreciation of the notion of essentially community.
Yeah, because it's never been, I'm sorry, Sandy, it's never been really only about us. It's been more about the issues, the larger, the larger issues, and we do a lot of focusing on that. And we also, even in teaching the songs, it's about empowering people to try new things, whether it's on an instrument or vocally or whatever. We want people to be able to have the joy of doing this sort of thing, and they're, we watch them grow in that. It's a great thing.
Yeah, and I think that our community is a little bit less visible from what I'm hearing, and I love hearing about what Chris and Heather are doing, and obviously what and what Adam's doing as well. I think our community and how they take care of each other is not a visible thing. So we do these hangs after our Sunday workshop, and these people know each other and can like talk about things, and we care about someone who just had to go to the doctor and what happened to them and that kind of thing. And we facilitate a conversation, but by now they've been together so long, they do it. We don't have to do it. And likewise for our songwriting groups, they, email each other during the week. They post on each other's pages on Facebook. They connect. So there is that kind of community building. It's a little more private, I guess, what we've done. But I did want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Pardon me for jumping in, Sandy. Like, I think there is a certain irony to you describing it as being less public when, in fact, you are utilizing Zoom, which is something for the most part, and I am expecting Adam and Chris and Heather to correct me because I'm undoubtedly wrong. You are using a tool to literally connect people in a visual medium, as opposed to a Facebook or, you know, a more written word kind of connection.
Right.
And
I mean, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
There's an amazing authenticity, not authenticity, wrong word, sorry. There's an amazing closeness that comes from inviting that level of connection.
Right. What I meant is you can't see it because these aren't posted. That kind of, you know, like our workshop is public, but then when we do the hang, we say goodbye to Facebook Live and people can come up from Facebook and join and whatever. But I mean that you can't see it from the outside. But yes, it's face to face. And that is what we have found that our people really like. We used to do concerts that were just directly on Facebook, and, you know, it's something to learn, to get used to, like, oh, okay, you're seeing like hearts and smiley faces, and that means your people are there and they love you. And it worked. It never felt like I was not feeling the love. But our audiences really wanted to be in a room, see us, see each other, have that feeling of being together. So yes, I hear what you're saying, that the act of it is actually more public in a way, because there's face to face, and even though it's not visible necessarily on public pages. Yeah.
Our tour, the Singing Out tour, was actually completely through Zoom.
Yeah.
And the entire tour, we wanted it so that, because at Pride, you see the visibility of the identities and expressions is so important. And so we also, and I'll just say to anybody who's an artist watching, take that idea and run with it. Zoom has really changed their audio game, and it's such a great way to foster that feeling of fans seeing fans face to face. Yeah.
And I just want to point out, because as an observer, I have strictly gone, I'm not a performer anymore since quarantine hit, because I'm more interested in seeing what people are doing. I have to admit, to me, the notion of using Zoom is, this isn't my podcast, so I can't swear, but it's terrifying. Because I've been in some Zoom hangs after concerts that got real ugly real quick. So the fact that you're able to, again, I'm trying to speak to the nature of the audience that you have grown and fostered, and the fact that there is a level of trust there that is being respected on both sides. That in and of itself is a really impressive thing. And the fact that
I just want to speak, and I'm sorry, I want to speak to that a little bit, because we do sing about politics, and so you might think, okay, you know, the after hang is going to be chaotic, but we do facilitate a conversation, and you know, and there are some people who want to just talk, but mostly it just hasn't been that bad. So I'm sorry to hear that you've run into, you know, whatever bar fights on Zoom. We really haven't had that, you know.
We also have two, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, we have two different things that we do with our songwriting workshops. Those aren't public, of course, you know, and they're very, very intimate. And we have two different songwriting groups, and they often hang after. They come on early and hang out with one another, and then we do the workshop, and then they hang after. Sometimes when stuff's going on, they hang for a long time after we'll just leave the room open. Sometimes they'll hang for like 45 minutes after. It's not a particularly big group, you know, they're smaller groups. But so there's that. And then there's the other thing that we do when we're doing concerts or the Learn Emma's Revolution song. Then, you know, folks can come into the room, and it's everything from conversations about the songs, and more often it's conversations about what's going on in the world. You know, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, were killed. Those kinds of things, and we have a big session around the grief. You know, we had a huge discussion today about what went on yesterday at our songwriting workshop. You know, so they're really different. Each sort of little pod of community that we have going on.
Yeah, and I think that that nature of creating spaces for those kind of conversations, not to go ahead and plug my own organization, but NERFA is in the process of starting peer groups for presenters and for performers, specifically for that reason, to talk about, you know, for the conversations that people want to have about what mechanisms are you using to find success, to the how are you getting through the day, like what's keeping you going, or what's getting in the way of keeping you going. So we're taking I'm stealing from you because I've watched you all be so successful. And I want to make sure that as an organization, we're providing the same level of attention to our membership. So we're getting, we usually run about an hour 15, hour 20 in sort of formal conversation, and then we get to sort of questions and answers. But I do want to sort of call out a couple things as we're going. One is, one of the things I adored most about your video, Pat and Sandy, is that's the first time I've heard Happy Birthday being sung in sync in 9 months. Because listening to Zoom Happy Birthdays has completely destroyed that song. And not that it was a favorite before, but my God. So thank you. That was a nice moment for me.
So glad to hear it.
I want to go with brutal honesty. Adam, the first time I heard the toast, I thought it was cheesy, and I was like, meh, I love Adam's music. That song just meh. And it is the song
that's what my wife says every night that I play that song. It's kind of like
and for the people that don't know, Adam has ended his 301 shows with that song. And now every time I hear the opening guitar riff to that song, I literally tear up. So good on you, and I'll throw myself out the window for having really awful first impressions, because it's a great tune.
No, you've just been beaten into submission like the rest of my community.
And go for it. Sorry.
No, that's it. I had nothing else to say.
And you know, Heather and Chris in particular, and I think everyone sort of alluded to it, and we talked specifically about Pride Month, but the fact that Pride Month this year in particular fell during everything that was going on with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and all of that. And again, not going to pigeonhole ourselves, but what you represent to our community as a whole is a honesty in the ability to talk about things like that. You have been very giving of yourselves in doing that. And Chris, one of the things I love about you is I know you're not always happy to be the one that is talking about these things, but you still stepped up and were so giving of yourself. I just, again, like I told you at the beginning, this is all about appreciating you. And I just wanted to share that for a straight white guy in his early 40s now, all of a sudden, thanks to the world, I'm completely inspired and taken aback by how wonderful you guys chose to handle that particular series of events.
Thanks very much. Yeah, the one I will say, the one beautiful thing about the folk community, especially actually here tonight, I'm like blushing just a tiny bit, but I'm such a fan, and I just have so much respect for the work that Sandy and Pat do and have done. So I'm happy to try to put a little tiny toe into those awesome, big, powerful shoes. So to continue that legacy of folk music, being an agent for change and hope in this country of ours.
Yep.
You're doing a fine job. You know, we hear your name over and over and over again. Right. Both of your names.
Are they saying cries, or are they actually saying Chris? Like, you can tell me.
I have not heard one person mispronounce either of your names.
So good.
Thank you so much.
Well, we will transition. I know people have been asking questions throughout the night, and frankly, I have been a selfish brat, and I have just loved keeping your attention myself, so we haven't pulled those up. But I do want to call out our dear friend Jess Razzie, who's been sort of producing this event behind the scenes, and she's got some questions ready to sort of line up, and we'll pull those up and start We found there's a lot of online burnout. Folks are just tired of the virtual world. What are you doing to deal with that after 10 months? And I would invite, we'll go sort of round robin unless anyone wants to particularly jump in. I would also invite people to sort of counter some of these things, because I would admit, for everyone that tells me that they are done being a zombie, that's a new word I heard. There are other people that are tuning in for their 301st Adam Ezra show in a row. So as if you want, Pat and Sandy, if you guys sort of want to start, speak to this particular question.
We do have people on both sides of that spectrum. I mean, or within that spectrum. We definitely have a friend who, you know, was saying to us, "Oh gosh, I've seen enough of you all," you know, kind of thing. And she's a friend, so she could say that. But I think we do also have that same thing that we mentioned, that for some people, they're not in a burnout, and this is the way they connect. We're always careful about, we just do an hour show. We don't do, you know, is that a puppy? We that's a really big puppy. That's what happens. You get to see everybody's dogs. Fantastic. We always do about an hour show. We don't push anything over an hour, because that seems to be a bit of the sweet spot for what people can deal with. And then again, we just try to add an element of connection so that there's something for them besides just coming for music.
There's always something new, because, you know, we're always sort of mindful of what's going on in the news. So, you know, every time we're on, I think folks are getting a chance. Well, you know, a lot of the media that they're experiencing around these different events is very passive. They're just watching. People have the opportunity to interact around it and, you know, voice their concerns or their fears, or their, you know, if there are things to celebrate, they can talk about that. And I think that changes up the energy a lot.
Yeah, so I think I think the depth of what people have been doing, sort of the fact that, to all the points you guys have talked about, the fact that every night is a sharing of yourself on a certain deeper level, in some ways counteracts. I'm trying to sort of reinterpret what you're saying and see if I can take a clear, direct answer to the question. There is a sense of sharing of yourselves that counteracts the fatigue that people are talking about.
Because it's not, there's nothing scripted. It's all in response to what's happening in every moment, which it was in a concert that we would do from, you know, town to town kind of thing as well. But yeah, but the reality of it, just like you said, and Chris and Heather have been saying that too, the authenticity of just being live and being willing to make mistakes and look silly or do something right or wrong or both at the same time. You know, I think that willingness actually is keeping people interested, because it's very, things happen on screen.
People are gonna burn out.
Performers and
audience,
Yeah.
They're going to burn out. And to which I'll say, I had one live stream where I literally had a panic attack on stage and ended my thing early. And I was, hey guys, I'm really struggling. I love you so much. I'm not going to do 60 minutes. I'm going to do 30 minutes. I love you. Got off stage, had a freak out to both my partners and was like, I can't do this anymore. And I realized what doesn't serve me is repetitive, the same show over and over again. Yeah. And honestly, my fans, it doesn't serve them to have the same show over and over again. What does serve us and what serves our fans is being deeply human, being totally okay if 10 people show up, and then later on at the end of the week it's 1,000 people who have watched it, because in that moment what we're making doesn't serve them. But humans are super complex. Some days they want a virtual show, and some days they want to be watching Netflix and binge watching Grey's Anatomy. The thing is we live in a world where, like, you kind of just have to ask yourself, what is the next right thing for me? Is it doing a live stream this week? Then I'm going to do a live stream. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing to bear in mind. I think the question that was asked, it wasn't necessarily posed from the audience perspective or for the artist perspective, intentionally, because I think because we have been doing this since March, many artists are almost as burnout, or like trying to figure out and not be burned out. And so that notion of, you know, doing what serves you is important. I mean, the people are going to be needing us for a while, and so you want to be able to give them your very best. And so if you're burned out, you won't be able to do that. So self-care is
real,
very relevant, even in this virtual new normal. Please take care of yourselves.
Absolutely. Adam, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that, or if we should jump into the next.
I'd love to. It's just my panel mates are so eloquent and amazing. I'm loving listening to what they have to say about everything. I think that what struck me when you were asking that question, Ethan, is just I think we're all burnt out. 350,000 Americans have died, right, in less than a year. And that is numbing. You can't experience this, right, without you can't help but get numb to looking at 3,000 deaths every single day. You curl up in a fetal position. There's a numbing to that. And then there's a questioning of how you can be numb to thousands of people dying every single day and tens of thousands of people sick around us every day. We are all burnt out. We are burnt out at a lack of leadership and direction. We are burnt out at people having very different concepts of what truth and news actually means. We can't escape these things. And every time we go online, not only do we find other human beings in our little isolation pods, right? But people are trying to sell us things every single second of every moment that we are online. We are burnt out, and it's not even a performer or a fan, or we're all humans. We are burnt out, right? And I think maybe the biggest, maybe the biggest gift, right? That we can give, I think sometimes, I mean, I don't know the answer by any means, but is to just be burnt out and actually be on camera being burnt out, and to be honest about it, and to be burnt out. You're burnt out. Everybody on this panel's burnt out. We're all a bunch of burnt out shells of human beings trying to scrape by the craziest chapter in history you've all had to live through. And it's okay. It's okay to be, it's okay, you know, and that can happen. And being burnt out and being in crisis, we can share that.
Ethan, can I hack on to that question that was right there? Kind of goes with this too. So one of the question was, what number one thing, name one thing has helped you keep on. So with this, what has helped me is changing it up. So when we started, we did a show every Sunday night. It was like Sunday night. And then we got into it. And then less people started coming. And then we had some really intense traumatic things happen. And then it was like, okay, in our country and in life, and thousands upon thousands of people dying. And it was just like Sunday night. And then one Sunday came, and the whole collective group was just like, because we have somebody who's helping us moderate comments in New York, and we have my partner who helps run and do all the tech side. Yeah. We all four of us were like, no, we're not going to serve them the way that we want to. Let's change it up. So we switched it up to a Thursday night. They came, and it was awesome. Then we did a couple shows, and it was awesome. And then we did a tour, and then we changed it up.
I loved your 90s night. It was awesome.
We did it, and we did an afternoon show, and then we switched to Patreon. We like super focused on our Patreon, like our different Patreons. We did. Chris has a social justice roundtable that she does, and I have like mental health support groups. And it just, when you change it up and say, I'm gonna try this, and it could go really bad, but I'm gonna try it. There's something that happens. You forget you're burned out when you change it up.
Yeah. It's just like life. I mean, you know, I love PB&J as much as the next person, but it's like sometimes you just don't want that. You've had 3 in a row. Like, I'd like lots and smear, so that's what I'm gonna have. So, you know, you just have to do what you have to do. That's it, people. That's it.
I want to say though that for us, having been touring for decades, I've been touring since the mid 80s. This is the longest span of time that I've been home pretty much in my entire adult life.
Yeah.
And every time that I was out, it was a challenge. Don't get me wrong, I love performing live. I love being with an audience. I'm more at home on stage than probably almost anywhere else, partly because I've just been doing it so long. But it was really a strain to pay the bills. We found out how incredibly expensive it is to just be on the road all the time. And we've been doing everything ourselves. We don't have managers and booking agents, and we do every single aspect of this on our own. And we pretty much always have. And I tell you, to be able to be home and sleep in my own bed every night and, go to work, I walk around the corner and go in the little room and sit down, set the lights and turn on the mic, and I'm here. There's a way in which there's a routine and a rhythm in my life that I have really never been able to have. I cook for, we live with my girlfriend and our 15-year-old son, and we moved Sandy up here partly in March, and just thought, it's going to be a couple of weeks.
It's
and
like
they
a
were
Gilligan's Island
oh
thing.
no, actually we're just going to be here for the duration, whatever that is. So we just moved her out of her apartment entirely. So we have our own little family here. Yeah. I cook our meals pretty much every single night. I do the shopping every night. So there's a way in which there's always something different going on for me, and being in the present with all of that and being in one place has actually keeps me from getting burned out. I'm grateful for the opportunity actually to have this window on the world. Talk to me next week and maybe I'll feel differently about it, but but it still works for me.
And I think there's an interesting sort of, to me, what we're trying to do with these panels is focus on silver linings and focus on presenting solutions to the common problems that we're all running into, either as performers or presenters or people in the industry as a whole. But, some of the most hopeful conversations that I've had with performers are from the 55, 60, 65, 70-year-old performers who are realizing right now that they thought that they would have to be on the road every day until they died because that was their only option. And they're now realizing that that isn't the only option. And, and it's not strictly that age range that is having that realization. A good friend who's someone that's on the road, kind of like Adam, generally doing 200 shows a year. I remember talking to the performer about 2 months into COVID, and their response to me was like, I'm realizing that with Patreon now, if things get back to normal, my income is going through the roof. It is going to substantially change, or I'm going to do 100 shows and be able to be home for half the year and spend time with my near and dear. And I think that's an empowering realization that, again, I have friends, and I know we all know performers in sort of that feel trapped space of I'm going to die on the road because that's the option. So I wanted to talk specifically about that.
I was one of them.
Very technical question. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad you brought up Patreon because I've seen it come up for everybody. I think, Adam, I don't know if you have one too, but we felt very lucky. I mean, people have been telling us about it for years. My brother had been telling me about it for 5 years. You should do this. And it was like, oh, God, you have to like come up with a whole new scheme. Like it's not enough to create our music and the website. And then you have to come up with a whole, you know, sort of vibe for Patreon. But we launched ours in January, almost a year ago now. And we were just so astoundingly lucky that we had that in place, because that has made all the difference. Once COVID hit, people really understood how much music meant to them and how at sea we all were. So if artists are watching this and you haven't done Patreon, so worth doing it. You can always reach out to us. I'm happy to talk to you about how we did it or if it's useful. But obviously you could check out any of these artists' Patreon as well. That's just been a game changer.
Yeah, we have a guaranteed, at least, you know, guaranteed for now, if anything's guaranteed. But we have a monthly income. So the stress is off in a way that it really never has been in my career.
Yep.
It makes a really huge difference.
I'll never forget. Sorry, I just wanted to say one comment on Patreon. I'll never forget the amazing. I love her so much. Rebecca Loby said we had we were both like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? And she was like, let's lean in on our Patreon. Let's like just tell them like what's happening and just hope that they come out. And they did. They came out and it was so amazing. And we had a call once and she said, Heather, for the first time in my life, I have an annual salary.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's like, I have a monthly paycheck. I don't remember the last time I had a monthly paycheck.
There is, and again, I'm going to focus on this from the positive silver lining side. There is some real opportunity that you can see being seized by people who are willing to say, all right, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm going to figure out this streaming thing. I'm going to figure out this Patreon thing. And I absolutely don't mean that to come across remotely flippantly, saying those that feel that they can't, you know, whatever, but it really, you're seeing the benefit of having that particular tool in the tool belt.
Yeah.
In the ability to say, all right, I'm adaptable. I can change. I can make this work. And you know, who would have thought in 2019 that all of us would know what OBS means, or, you know, these are, it's a different world. Well, Adam doesn't. Adam's still on Facebook. Just kidding.
He's out in the wild there, you know, out in the open air.
Adam, are you in
for my dinner? Are you kidding me?
Are you in California, or where are you, buddy?
I am in California. I'm out in the Mojave Desert, you know, and you talk about ways that our lives have changed this year. I was like Pat, you know, every day is a day. I mean, you got to play to survive.
Yep.
And you can't say no to being on the road. And each year, if you're doing everything right and you're working as hard as you possibly can, the next year may get a little bit better, may get a little bit easier, may get, you know, you might have a better means of transportation. You might not break down quite as often, right? But of course, as your business grows as an artist too, your expenses also grow as an artist. And it is a hamster wheel, and it is hard not to, it took a global catastrophe for me to change what I was doing. And man, I've never gotten to spend time like this with Allie out, and we bought this little cabin out here. I didn't think I'd ever get in we usually live in Boston. We bought this tiny little shack in a pile of rocks in the middle of the desert, thinking maybe someday we'll get to spend a little bit of time here. Maybe we'll spend a couple days a year in between Adam's crazy tour. We've been here for months and months, and you can live stream from anywhere. And it's hard to, Vermont's tough. That's true, huh? Yeah, Vermont's tough. Vermont's tough. But it has, I don't know what's going to happen I think probably all of us on this panel are thinking the same thing, right? Our lives have changed this year, and as the world gradually maybe normalizes, right? What will we be back on that same hamster wheel? It won't be the same, right? But we've all been forced to look at our lives from another perspective, and that can be a gift.
Yeah.
It is, and again, just because we're here under the guise of the Northeast Regional Folk Alliance, as an organization, our goal right now is to learn as much as we can from people like you who've gone into this scenario, learn some things, and try to figure out how we can best serve the greater ecosystem that is roots folk music in the Northeast. And we're in the process of trying to come up with programming that will be imminently and immediately useful, coming up with opportunities for presentation, recognition. And what I find interesting now is something that, Adam, I think you have a little experience with this. Heather and Chris, you might, Pat, I don't know, Pat and Sandy, you guys can let me know. I just don't know your history well enough. This is the first time I've ever heard of organizations like NERFA and of individual artists striking up brand deals, getting reached out to and working with companies directly. Adam, I believe you did something with Wolverine earlier this year, Wolverine Boots. Am I remembering that? Timberland. I'm sorry. Oh, God.
No, it's okay. No.
Are you talking about sponsorships, Ethan? Are you talking about sponsorships?
Like endorsement kinds of things?
Sponsorship and endorsement deals.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. For sure.
Which, and I'm not saying this is across the board, but I know I look young for a folkie, but that's a weird bar. In any other music genre, I'm old or technically dead, depending on the genre.
What does it say about me?
It means in folk terms, you're a spring chicken. You're good. But I've been, and the reason I bring that up is I've been in the scene. I've literally been volunteering and working in coffee houses since I was 13. I don't recall any musician I knew ever talking about endorsement deals, brand deals, in synergizing with outside vending. And there's something, I get there's a skepticism that some people have about things like that. Probably a healthy skepticism that some people have about things like that. But it is also opportunity, and it's opportunity that's coming to people that need it. And that's something that is really, again, silver lining, trying to focus on the silver linings. That's something that's really quite interesting. And I think that the reason that those opportunities are starting to come up for people like us is because of the depth of the relationships that people like you are building. Because brands can't help but see Adam at 200 to whatever the numbers are that I was wrong on before, and you corrected me at night, and X number of 100,000 per week. That's inignorable. And
I think it's an opportunity. I think it is an opportunity in a lot of ways. I think I'm very aware of how much we are being sold to everywhere we turn in our lives, and that is very difficult. And in a lot of ways, as artists, we want to be a respite from that cycle. There are also brands that are out there that are dedicated to creating a product that will serve, just like we try to create a product that will serve. And there are brands that are out there that are also dedicated to community empowerment and giving back when they can. And I think that there are impactful and responsible ways to partner with corporations, with businesses that want to do some good for the world, and they want to do it through connecting through an artist. You know, it's I think it's hard to get the kind of numbers that are out there for big artists and big athletes that get big kind of sponsorship deals. But on micro levels, there are people that want to be connected to artists who are serving their communities, and it's an interesting. It gets the gears turning for me, for sure.
So I think that's probably as good a place as any to sort of start wrapping up our conversation tonight. I'm going to sort of give all of you a second to think of something that you want to close with, but I'll go around the room really quickly and say, Pat and Sandy, I want to thank you so much for being here. Sandy, you were actually the first person we talked to about this and helped us generate the idea of what we were going to talk about. So we couldn't have done this without you, and the programming committee is in your debt. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. Chris and Heather, I love you goobers. You are two of my favorite people on the planet, and I will never stop finding opportunities to hang with you guys, virtually or not. You know, just occasionally you just have to remind me that you're getting sick of me, and I should go away for a little bit. But that's okay. Along those lines, Heather is going to be on another NERFA panel in early March, I believe. The first Thursday in March, we're doing a special panel specifically on mental health, and it's in partnership with Music Cares. Heather's going to be part of that discussion. The NERFA board treasurer, Dan Godfrey, who is a retired therapist, will be involved in that, as well as some members from Music Cares. We're going to be talking about mental health. We're also going to be talking about free medical care, health care, mental health care that is available to artists that I don't think everyone knows about. So I think that's really important. And I'd love for people to show up to that. Adam, you are a machine of inspiration. And I honestly can't thank you enough. Your show kept me going for a bit, that particularly in May and June, and seeing the warmth that came from that. You know, one of the interesting things is I have the worst case of attention deficit disorder that you will likely meet. So when I'm watching the shows, I will constantly pause it and go run, do something, then come back. What I've discovered is that the little Facebook emoticons, like all those hearts that go flying, they're not tied to the moment that you're watching. They're tied to the actual moment. So I'm behind in your show, and I always know when you start the toast, because all of a sudden there's a wave of love up in the air, and it's one of those like little weird moments that just makes you smile no matter what. So I just wanted to share that little moment of appreciation for all three of you. And the last thing I'll say from the NERFA side is our next panel is January 28th, and it's going to be a technical panel. We've got wonderful representatives from Fishman and from B&H who are going to be talking about technical setups, and we're going to literally be going from you on a stream and you have no budget. All right, let's talk about using the lamp on the side of the room and your cell phone, straight up to I got $10,000 that I want to spend on something, and you know, here's what makes the most sense. So I'm really excited about that. So please do pop in for that. More information will be available at nerfa.org and on all our socials. So that being said, Heather and Chris, what do you want to leave us with?
You want to go first?
Oh, no, I do not.
All right, I'm like, okay, sage wisdom. No, I will say to all of the artists out there, you know, it has been an unprecedented time for all of us, but we're here. We are still surviving. Many of us are actually thriving in ways that we did not think that we would when we first got word of this very scary time. So, you know, please take good care of yourselves. Keep your wells filled so that you can go out there and fill others. Just take care of yourselves.
So I think I'll piggyback off of that and say that you need to be kind to your mind, because as normal as all of this has become, we are very much still in a pandemic where you are not able to do the work that you used to do. And we are not hearing that thing that fuels us. If you are a performer, we are not. And honestly, if you're a venue owner as well, you don't have access to that thing that fuels you, which is and the hug at the end of the night, and the thank you, your music is changing me, and that exchange. It's a lot of just giving all the time, and we as musicians are not receiving, and that is really hard on the mind. So what I'll say to that is, find maybe a new way that you can receive what you need to fill that gap. Is there something else that you've never tried? Is there maybe a blog that you can start? Is there something, a workshop series like the two of them have done? Is there something that you've not tried that you can receive that real time, thank you for changing my life, just to sustain you till you get to the other side of that?
Adam, what would you like to say, buddy?
Ethan, man, thank you for facilitating this conversation. I love that you want to talk about this stuff. And Chris and Heather and Sandy and Pat, such an honor to get to hear your thoughts and get to be on the same panel as you for a little while and talk about this stuff. It's a hard time we're all living through, but there's so many fascinating lessons to be learned under every little rock, right? And it's been great hearing what you have to say. You know, I never thought I would say this, but being online and performing online over these past months has been the honor of my life as a musician, and I'm inspired by it and humbled by it every day, even on the hard days, even when every single day is hard. So for those of you out there watching, thanks for watching, and participate in any way you can. Participate.
And thank you, Ab. Honestly, thank you. And to my favorite folk spring chickens, Pat and Sandy, what would you like to leave us with?
Okay. I'll let you speak last. So,
Okay.
I want to thank you also, Ethan, for your very loving and generous facilitation of this conversation. I think that you all put us, just made us feel like we were hanging with you and your dog, and just the love that you showed to all of us. It was just wonderful and really warmed my heart as you spoke about everyone as well. And I want to echo Adam, that it's just an honor and so much fun to get to talk with you all about the reality of this weird life that we're in. So I hope we can do it again in whatever ways we do. I want to say to folks who are watching, reach out. If you have questions and didn't get answered, just email us or any of these folks here, because we reaching out at this time is kind of the corollary to what Heather was saying. We need to take care of ourselves and remember to reach out if you need help, so that you can be part of this, so that you can feel that you have someplace to be that feels well and good to you, and something to do that feels good to you in this time, in this intense time.
Yeah, I think one thing that was a great realization for us was to find that it was really okay to put out to our audience that, when our gigs went away and we were in a panic, we just said that. We're like, our gigs have all gone away. We don't know what to do. What should we do? And people really came out and showed their support in a really broad range of ways. So I would say, don't be afraid to connect. And don't be afraid to make mistakes in doing that. And we all learn from one another all the time. Don't be afraid to ask questions of folks, to find out better ways to connect, ways that you can feel and get the support that that you need. It's really important. Be as safe as you can be. There are folks out there who don't have the option to be safe. Be really compassionate and loving toward them, and do whatever you can do to make their lives safer, so that we can all get through this and get back to the point where we can sing for one another live, and we can hug one another and be together again. We crave that time.
Yeah. I thank you. Honestly, thank you all so very much for being part of this. I want to just sort of leave with a very sort of quick summation in my mind of one of the core messages you guys have been repeating, which is a lesson that Heather May has taught me on a daily basis. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself kindly right now. It's a really tough time to be anyone. And we are all very often our worst critics. So being kind to ourselves right now is more important than ever. And listen to great music. Listen to the music of people like, listen to Adam's Toast. It might be cheesy at first, but it'll get you eventually. listen to Stand Up. Listen to Stand Up by Heather May, which is an anthem that will kick the crap out of anything written in the 60s, all due respect. It's amazing. Chris Matthews' Battle Hymn for an Army of Lovers. Spectacular song right out of Woody Guthrie's handbook. And Pat, and said, I can't even name a specific song because you've written so many. It's unfair. Like, your songs were in the hymnal in the church I worked at. Like, that's literally how ingrained you are in this community. So thank you guys so much for inspiring people straight across. Thank you for being honest with us and sharing of yourselves tonight. And thanks to everyone that came in and listened. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks, and I'll see you guys as soon as you'll put up with me again. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having us.